Welcome to Essex County College's Community Education Forum TV series. Now here's your host, Mr. Alfred Bundy.
Welcome to Essex County College's Community Education Forum TV series. I'm your host, Alfred Bundy, and the Executive Director for Institutional Advancement here at the college. Our first guest today is a longtime spiritual leader and is committed to educating people of color on how to increase their financial wealth, and has authored several books on the subject. He will be featured speaker at the college coming up and leading our Business Division 7th Annual Financial Literacy Conference. Our guest also has had the distinction of being the first African-American male to hold the position of New Jersey's Secretary of State. Please welcome my friend, and your friend too, really, the Reverend Deforest Buster Soaries. Welcome, Buster.
Thank you so much, Al. Good to see you.
You know, you've had an amazing career. You've helped so many people. You've lifted so many people. You've done so much for so many. We can't even thank you enough. But on behalf of all those who may have not said thank you, I'm saying thank you. Because people like you need to know that. There's a lot of things we could talk about because you have a lot of interest. But today we're just going to talk about D-Free and the D-Free financial movement. Tell me about that. What inspired you to do that?
Well, as you know, Al, I served First Baptist Church in Somerset for 30 years. And halfway through my tenure, what I realized was that there was a serious component of my ministry missing, and that was focusing on the financial wellness of my members. Now, generally, all pastors and all leaders care about the financial fitness of their members. The problem was I had not gone to take the step of giving them tools. You know, we have financial dreams, we have financial goals, we have financial slogans and rhetoric, but we don't really have financial tools and financial strategy. So D-Free emerged out of my desire to help the members of First Baptist, not just the church itself, because the church was doing great. We owned property, we built a new church facility, we built housing, but we had not done a good job at helping our members understand money and have strategies for leaving financial legacies. So that's how D-Free started in 2005.
What's the movement? We call it the financial...
Well, we call it a movement because it's not just a curriculum. Financial literacy offers financial education. But, you know, when I was running around these streets in Essex County in the 1970s, you know, I was woke, but I was broke. So I was an activist, but I didn't have any financial capacity. And so we created what we call not just a curriculum, but a movement where we actually have groups of people competing with each other over debt reduction, real estate acquisitions, et cetera. We've got over 250 Delta Sigma Theta chapters that are using our content, but more importantly, using our tools to have healthy, financially productive competition. So that's how the movement came into it. We have a platform that helps people measure their financial increase and the decrease of their debt. So instead of just having a curriculum, which is for the mind, the movement really stirs up the soul. And we've got thousands of people now around the country, in South Africa, in Ghana, who are literally a part of this movement.
Wow. Now, are the tools in this book D-Free? If we get the book, tell me everything I need to do to...
Well, you know, we call the book D-Free 1.0. I wrote the book after...
D stands for debt-free, right? Or
debt, delinquencies, and deficits.
Okay.
And it really flows from my experience. You know, when I was an activist, I was spending more than I made. I drove a luxury car when I should have been driven a mini car. I was living as though I was rich, and I was using credit cards to finance a lifestyle I could not afford. So I'm not against all credit, but if you're making $25,000 a year and you use your $5,000 credit limit on your Visa card as if it's income, then you are really forfeiting your financial future.
And I did that when I was young.
We all did it. First of all,
when they gave me a credit card, I went crazy.
It was like a gift from heaven.
my parents never gave me $5,000.
Yeah.
Hell, I had a credit card, so I had $5,000.
It's like Christmas.
It was like Christmas.
So what happened to me was that my grandmother died. My grandmother had 6 children, black woman in New York. After her 6th child, my grandfather had a stroke. He couldn't work. My grandmother was a seamstress, but when she died, she left 3 houses in New York paid for with no debt. And house number 3 she left to me. My first real estate I inherited from my grandmother. And I said to myself, if with my education, my visibility, all of what I know and do, if I died tonight when my grandmother died, all I'd have to leave is credit card bills. And I said, if my grandmother could do what she did, then shame on me if I can't do better.
And we're talking about generational wealth,
Right.
and that's a good example. Talk to us more about how important generational wealth is.
Well, the
for
wealth,
all people.
The wealth gap between blacks and whites is widening. It's not lessening. And the only way we're going to close that wealth gap is if we have in mind helping the next generation do better than we did. Real estate, Wall Street, all kinds of tools exist. And we have to think not only in terms of looking good, but leaving legacy. This institution is here because there were people in northern New Jersey who felt that their political struggles should result in an institutional legacy so that children and young people today who come to this school are the beneficiaries of the work that was done back in the 60s and the 70s right in this city. We have to think the same way. We can't simply have as our goals attaining things for ourselves, going on vacations, having brunch. We have got to be looking at closing the wealth gap for our children and using the tools that exist today to make that happen.
What are the biggest challenges people of color especially face in becoming financially secure?
Well, the biggest challenge is the legacy that we've inherited of having worked for 246 years for free, then having 100 years of Jim Crow. Public policy has been a major barrier for black people, at least, attaining and sustaining wealth. Having said that, the second barrier is that because of how marginalized we were, we didn't have real conversations about money. When we talk to the people in our programs, they often tell us the only conversation they had as children about money in their homes was, we don't have any. You know, money doesn't grow on trees. You know, when my ship comes in. We had all these slogans that basically were euphemisms for, we are broke. And so that's been a challenge. And I think what we try to do in D-Free is to help people, give people tools to have judgment-free conversations about money, to make plans about money, to understand what we're doing with money. And I think we can break through those barriers. There are barriers, but the barriers are not impenetrable. We can rise above the barriers.
On April 12th, you're going to be here at Essex County College as our keynote speaker at our Business Division's Financial Literacy Conference. And I know you were invited by our conference coordinator. I got to mention our ECC Professor John Wilner Alexander. Tell us just a few key points you're going to make in that presentation.
Well, I want to commend Essex County College, first of all, for this event. This is a unique event. I've been to colleges across the country to help them launch Financial Literacy Month, to help them launch their financial literacy programs. And I think this is one of the more sophisticated approaches that I've seen anywhere in the country. So my hat's off to the president, to the department head, and to all of those that contribute to it. It's robust, it's relevant, and I think we should be proud in New Jersey to have such a dynamic program here. When I come, my job is to motivate people to do 2 or 3 things. One, to have a plan. Don't just let money decide where money goes. Have a plan. And I've got plenty of stories from my life of when I did not have a plan and what the consequences were. And then to talk to professionals. We use professionals to get our hair done. We need professionals for health care. We depend on professionals to fly airplanes. And when I say professionals, I mean people who are licensed, having been trained to do what they do. We've got to increase the percentage of our people that talk to professionals to make financial decisions.
Wow.
We are underrepresented in the use of financial professionals, and that'll be a part of my message.
And that includes like professional
Financial planners, financial advisors.
I actually talked to mine just yesterday.
Certified financial
I just
planners.
called mine yesterday.
Retirement planners, accountants.
Accountants.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have but a minute left, but you know, I wanted to ask you, what's your perspective on these credit bureaus that set up places like TransUnion who decide people's credit score?
Yeah. Well, my perspective is understand what they are, find out what the rules are, and win. We can't get rid of them, but they're there, and there are certain things we can do to leverage our own behavior, our own goals, our own intellect to win. There's a system. It's like sports. You learn the rules, you play the game, and you win. And TransUnion, Expedian, Experian, and all of those credit bureaus have certain criteria for establishing your credit. And your credit score matters. Your credit score matters for interest rates that you pay. Your credit score matters sometimes for jobs that you get.
Yes.
Your credit score matters for insurance rates.
Yes.
So credit matters. Credit scores matter even if you don't plan to borrow money. So my advice is learn the rules, play the game, and win.
Yeah, I just remember the comedian I just heard, Trevor Noah, the other day, talking about, he went to the bank, he told him, we ain't interested in you paying us or giving us any money. We're interested if you got some credit.
Right.
you could have thousands of dollars.
That's right.
Make you credit. Buster, I'm out of town. We're going to get the word out about April 12th. I'm going to personally be here, and of course, a number of our employees are going to come hear you that day, because we don't just have our students, we have our employees come to that workshop, because it's that important. So I want to thank you, Reverend Soaries, and don't you go anywhere. We will be right back.
Whether it's jump-starting a new career or working toward your degree, Essex County College provides access and opportunities to succeed. ECC offers biology, engineering, computer science, nursing and health sciences, criminal justice, business, liberal arts, supply chain management, and social science in-demand programs. Learn more today about Essex County College. Students first.
Welcome back to Essex County College's Community Education Forum. I'm your host, Alfred Bundy. Our next guest is a distinguished professor here at Essex County College and an author. She also served as editor for a recently published book, A Star to Steer By. Here to talk about her work is my friend, Dr. Margaret Stevens. Welcome to the forum.
Thank you, sir.
As I said, I really should say welcome back, because we've had you before. Tell us, a little bit about your teaching assignment here, and actually you teach history, am I correct?
I do.
Why do students like history or want to hear?
Well, it's a challenge. I can't say they all do, but the lives that they're living, the struggles that they're going through on a daily basis, all have origins. And so I think that when you are able to place their current lives and their aspirations and the limitations and possibilities of the world that they're in, when you're able to put that into context for them and answer questions so that they don't feel crazy, they don't feel alone, they don't feel like, it's not just them. I think that they like. They don't like the essays, they don't like the quizzes, they don't like the exams, they don't like that, but they do like the fact that you can make their struggles relevant.
What I want to talk about, though, is some of your writing. You actually published a book called Red International and the Black Caribbean. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
So that was my first book. I have a couple of projects going on, but that was my first. That was my dissertation when I was in graduate school at Brown years ago. So this was 20 years ago. I started working on that project, not really in 2003, but 15 years ago, you could say. That project is about the relationship between Black workers in the Caribbean and the international movement against racism and inequality and colonialism between World War I and II, back in the Marcus Garvey days, led by the international communist movement. So that book put me in Cuba, it put me in Haiti, put me in Mexico, it put me in Barbados, St. Kitts. It took me all over the Caribbean and put the rebellions in that part of the world into conversation with New York City.
Well, that's an interesting parallel. Now,
Yeah.
there's also some connection, though, to this book you recently edited.
Right.
A Star to Steer By.
Yes.
Tell us about that, and tell me how that might be connected, or how you have the type of background that allows you to be the editor.
Exactly. So when the first book came out, it was a big deal in certain circles. All of this academic stuff is very siloed. So, in the world of historians and people who do progressive radical 20th century history, Black radical history, whatever, this book was a big deal. So there is a man named Hugh Molzak, and Hugh Molzak is yet another example of what my more survey book was about. He's a very intimate portrayal of a man who's from this island called St. Vincent, and you know, in the period of the early mid 20th century up through World War II and after World War II into the Civil Rights Movement. He was a pioneer on so many levels of the fight against racism.
Great. Let's start with sharing, make sure it's clear. People should know that St. Vincent is one of the Caribbean islands.
Yes.
Okay, which, like you said, you already had a lot of background and work in there.
Yes.
And tell me more about the story about this man.
So Hugh Mulzac was a product of slavery in the sense that his father was a descendant of the slave master on the island, and his mother was one of the slaves on the island who was freed. And so you have this, you know, biracial child who has a bunch of siblings, and they are privileged relative to most of the other African.
What time period are we talking about?
So this is early 20th century. He was a child in 1905, 1910. Okay. He's the same age as all of the other folks that I discussed in my first book. Mm-hmm. So that means that by the time World War I came and Marcus Garvey was on the scene in 1919, Hugh Mulzac had made his way to the United States by then and was one of the people manning Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line ships. Goodness. So this man's life
and quickly
is
tell
like,
people what the Black Line starships were.
So Marcus Garvey had this whole idea essentially of black capitalism. He basically had this idea that the problem with black workers and black people as a whole is that they do not have enough of a stake in the finance capitalism. Black people are not investing. If they were to invest in their own businesses, they would uplift as a race. So Garvey he bought a bunch of secondhand steamships. You know, back in the day, it was steamships. So he just bought a couple of, honestly, rinky-dink steamships from white folks whose steamships were used. And it's just like on a used car lot. And he changed the names on them. He changed them from, you know what, the Sir Humphrey whatever to Booker T. Washington or whatever he called them. And he put black folks in charge, and he put it under his company, and he got thousands and thousands of black people all over the world to invest in his business.
Now, I don't want to go too far away from our book, but we're having this conversation now about critical race theory and people trying to erase the history. This whole part of our history with Marcus Garvey is in all of our history books. It's a real part of the American history that should be taught to everybody. Am I correct?
Yeah, and Marcus Garvey actually is way better known than people like Hugh Mulzac.
And let's talk about Hugh Mulzac.
Right, so the issue for me is that Hugh Mulzac, in fact, in my personal opinion, at least for African Americans in this country, did so much more to fight racism than, say, a Marcus Garvey. Well, because what Hugh Mulzac did was he demanded integration. He demanded that black and white workers come together in order to solve the race problem.
Now, was this in the kind of military work that he was doing?
So his background is that he was a seaman. He did everything ship-related. He was from the cook to the captain. He could do everything. He passed the exam in the United States in what's called the Merchant Marine. Most people don't know what that is, but the Merchant Marine on some level is like the fourth branch of the military, but it's not actually part of the military. The Merchant Marine is basically all of those guys who are trained to man companies, steamships that go all over the world. So he passed the exam to be the captain of a U.S. Merchant Marine ship in World War I and was not able to, in segregated racist United States, was not able to actually captain a ship for 2 decades until during World War II. When the United States was so desperate that they would even take a black captain because ships were being torpedoed by Hitler's forces left and right. They became desperate, and they asked him to captain a ship. Everyone in the world cheered him on. Marian Anderson, everybody was there when he was finally awarded the opportunity to captain a ship, and he said no, because the ship that they are offering me to captain is a segregated black ship.
Tell me this, Margaret, if somebody wants to pick up this literature, this story, how can they find this book?
They can, it's on Amazon. Everything is on Amazon.
Everything's on Amazon.
Everything is on Amazon.
Right, so let's get the name of the book real clear and who.
So the most recent edition that I oversaw the publication of. I redid it. I included a bunch of poems and interesting stuff to make it spiffed up. It is his memoir. It was originally written in the early 70s, late 60s. We republished it. They can go to Google and type in A Star to Steer By, and maybe if they type in my name, Margaret Stevens, they will get the latest edition.
You know, before you go, and we are almost out of time, but you have a sign on your office here at the college that reads, "Why is there always money for war, but not for education?" Why do you have that message there? Tell us briefly.
Well, that goes back to your question about why do students enjoy history. I think that the students at Essex County College face very dire, urgent circumstances of struggle, and they are up against an economy with inflation that is out of control, and they still have to make it to class. They have to choose between attending class and Ubering. They are up against conditions that many students in more privileged schools are not up against. And so I think that for them, we are moving more and more towards world war with the United States, Russia, and China. It's essentially inevitable, and I think that it helps them understand better that the struggle that they're enduring is endemic to a larger, sort of instability in our society and world that they didn't cause.
Gotcha. Listen, we're out of time. We got to go. But certainly, I want to tell you I love your passion.
Thank you.
And I want to hope you just continue to keep on teaching and reaching for helping us to understand this history and
Sure.
keep on writing.
I will.
We'll be right back. But before we go, take a look at Essex County College's Alumni Corner and meet Anna Mendez from the class of 2015. Essex County College made a difference in her life, and she's now making a difference in the world. Check her out. Welcome back to Essex County College's Community Education Forum. I'm your host, Alfred Bundy. Our final guest today is an entertainer extraordinaire, an Emmy Award winner and producer. He has worked from Wall Street to Broadway, and he is currently the president of Irving Street Rep and the producer of the upcoming McDonald's Gospel Fest. Here to talk about Gospel Fest is my friend, A. Curtis Farrow. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, you've done so many things. I mean, we could talk about your support and your leadership in assisting so many well-known artists, everybody from Springfield, as we like to call them here in Jersey, to Dionne Warwick. People don't know, but you coordinated the funeral service of both Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston. But you've done so much, much more. But today, let's just kind of focus on one thing that you also are known for, and that's Gospel Fest. Tell us about Gospel Fest. Tell us about the contest part. I'm trying to figure out.
So McDonald's Gospel Fest is about the community, and it is all about, we go out, we do a call to action. We go out into the community. Everyone who's got talent, we welcome to come in, and they basically come in and they audition, and we put them in categories. And within those categories, on the day of Gospel Fest, this year, Saturday, May 13th, there's a competition. So there's a competition that separates male soloists are separate from female soloists to teen soloists
How many
to
categories
rappers.
do you have?
There are 16 categories, and we get over 1,600 kids and youth and talent over and across that stage in 1.5 hours.
I've been there, and it's just an exciting, wonderful event.
It is.
Now, you have like praise dancers competing.
Praise dancers, we have rappers, poets, singers.
I think you even had comedy.
We have comedy as well, comedians. Yeah, gospel comedy.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the states that you draw from to?
Oh, everything from California. The praise dance team that has won 5 years in a row, they're from LA.
Wow.
There's a choir from Mississippi. They would win every year. And there's a choir from North Carolina. They would win every year. And thank God they don't come so that people in our area could win.
Well,
but it's all of those categories. So that's really what Gospel Fest, that's the base of Gospel Fest.
You've been part of this since about 24
years.
24 years now.
Yes.
Share with us the little bit more about its history and how it came about?
Sure. Well, it's the 40th year anniversary. 40 years ago, a group of Black McDonald owner-operators, 5 of them, got together and they wanted to do something give back to the community, because they felt like all of the national programs were like the Olympics, you know, or the Super Bowl. And they were like, but that's not really touching home. So they came up with this idea of McDonald's Gospel Fest. They were the first ones to take that word festival, cut it to fest. Now everybody's doing it. And now it's really about giving back to the community, you know, supporting scholarship programs, supporting Ronald McDonald House charities. It really is a community event.
That's awesome. Now, you said it was 5. How many Black McDonald owners are there now?
Oh, now in this market, in the New York tri-state market, there are 16 Black McDonald owner-operators. In the whole nation, I think there's like 243.
Wow,
yes.
That's so great to hear. So you said, you know, some of it's about giving back. I mean,
yes, always about giving back.
And let's hear a little bit more about that giving back part. Where are these dollars and how much money has been raised?
Well, so first of all, McDonald's does not, everything that they promote, they basically put the dollars behind it. So, and with the funds that are raised, you know, we do scholarships. We have the #1 scholarship program in the country, not just in McDonald's, in the country. I think you know because you were involved with it. And that particular program, the African American Future Achievers Program, that particular program, we had a 99.9% graduation rate. Because I was one of those ones who got in trouble in 2000 because I started telling people, stop giving kids 1-year scholarship. That doesn't help them. They go to school for 1 year and then they drop out. So I was one of those ones that I was, you know, beating the pavement saying, you got to give them 4-year scholarships. So we've always given 4-year scholarships. And the only reason we have a 99.9 is because it took one of our kids 5 years to graduate rather than the 4 years.
And that happens. You know, what I also need to hear about is the legendary Gospel Fest Choir.
The McDonald's Gospel Choir. And it is legendary this year. And anyone out there listening who wants to be involved, you can, everybody, the choir isn't open for everyone. You know, in so many churches now, they only have praise and worship teams. So all of those folks who used to sing in the choir, they're left with nothing to do. So we said, no, come, be a part of the McDonald's Gospel Choir. And this year, Al, it's going to be bigger than ever. We're going to have a 200-voice McDonald's Gospel
Now,
Choir.
wait a minute. Talking about large choirs, one of the things you did is you also broke the gospel choir record for the Guinness
Newark.
Book of Records.
Yes, at Newark Symphony Hall.
Please, tell us about your Guinness World Record real quick, and how big and how many voices?
Yeah, so all of my life I wanted to do this. I wanted to break the world's record. And so the great folks down at the Newark Symphony Hall, we partnered and we decided that we would break the world's record. And that record is 1,147 voices.
I'm glad to say I came by to see that. That was like mind-boggling.
It was amazing. Yeah,
it was amazing. It's amazing. Now, are clips of that on the YouTube? Can people find that?
Yes,
you know, they need to check that out.
They check it out.
You know, listen, I want you to tell us about the special guests, the headliners that you are also part of the McDonald's Gospel
So
Fest
this year we're so honored that we're having the Clark sisters. As you know, the Clark sisters are so historic.
They turn it out.
They turn it out. Yes.
Who else?
Hezekiah Walker, Mr. Gospel Fest himself. You know, he's our own. He's right here from the New York tri-state area, Brooklyn, and also we're very excited that Stephanie Mills is going to be a part of this year's show.
Awesome.
And she's going to be backed by that 200-voice choir. She's so excited. The one thing that Stephanie was like, I'm coming, but you got to let me sing home. And I was like, we would never have Dorothy on the show and not have you sing home. So we're excited about that and many more.
Yeah,
you know.
I hope everybody remembers Stephanie, who's had many hit records herself, but also starred on Broadway where she sang home in the musical The Wiz.
That's correct.
So, hey, you got to come check her out.
And many more.
Date, time, place for this year.
Saturday, May 13th at the Prudential Arena in Newark, New Jersey.
What time does it all start?
It all starts at 5 p.m.
If I want to get a ticket,
go to Ticketmaster.com or go to the Prudential box office and you can get a 50% off if you go to the box office and you say Essex County College, you get 50% off from now until Easter.
Oh my goodness, you heard it right here and you heard it first. We want people to check out Curtis on YouTube. Look him up. Google him. He
Yes.
is a phenomenal person. We don't have time. I'm going to have to have him come back sometime. Curtis,
This
we
was
have
great.
time.
Thank you for the opportunity. This was wonderful. You're amazing, and thank you so much for what you do for the community.
Thank you again. You've been watching Essex County College's Community Education Forum. For more information on Essex County College, visit our website at essex.edu. And to catch any of our Community Education Forum shows, check us out on Facebook or YouTube. I'm your host, Alfred Bundy. We'll see you next time.
You've been watching Essex County College's Community Education Forum. For more information on Essex County College, visit essex.edu. To catch any of our Community Education Forum shows, check out Facebook or YouTube. We'll see you next time.